Howdy, Beefalo Bard here, and welcome back. And what we're going to try to do today is, well, just kind of recap of what we've already done. And this is based off of the Simple Steam multiplayer template that I have created and have for sale and is available to purchase. I encourage you to join my Discord channel and ask any questions you want about it right there. But it's available. You can make a one-time payment of $10 to get this, and you're good to go. Or you can select to join my Patreon, and for different levels, you get different levels of the ability to ask questions, get feedback, get updates, things like that. But we'll cover that more in another series. But what we did in the last video was we created in other videos, we've created background music and a background for our main menu. And I'm actually going to go back and show you what we've created so far. I'm going to go back to our main menu map, and we're going to play this in standalone mode so that we can see what the game looks like so far that we've created using my Simple Steam multiplayer template. And currently I'm making these videos faster than I can get them compiled and uploaded, but I'm motivated and I want to get this out to people so that they can get started making their own multiplayer game. So now, whenever the game actually launches and comes up, what we're going to end up with is we have a background of whatever you want to choose. We have a Steam overlay that comes up. We have our Steam username and our Steam avatar. We have the TechnoX logo for the background music, thanking him for letting us have this awesome music we're using from TechnoX. And we can go into our multiplayer and host or find a game, or go into single player and go into the map. Now inside the map we start off with our usual typical UE4 mannequin, but we've also gone in there and created a couple new characters. We can hit the escape key and hit the character select and change to the red man or the blue man, and whichever you select. You can also click on that button to remove that section. And then once you hit resume game, you can actually start playing as that new character. Like, okay, I want to change over, I want to be the blue guy. And then resume game, and you're back playing. Awesome, right? I thought so. Okay, and we'll do more with that later, and we'll actually make different integration to where in a different map you can choose your team and whatnot. But let's get back to the main menu and exit game. Now, what I would like to do is, in this video, go ahead and create a Player Hud. I'm going to go back into the lobby map, and then I'm going to select where I can use a selected viewport. That way I can quickly go in and see how things look. As we're running around with our character right now, we have all our default animations and so forth, but we don't have a heads-up display. We don't have anything showing there. So we want to add something. So I guess the first thing we want to do is come down to UI folder and the widgets folder, and we're going to create a new widget. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to select user interface and widget blueprint. We're going to call this player underscore HUD. There's other ways of doing this, but this works very simple and it gets the job done. So hit the enter key. We're going to go ahead and go into this. And this is our blank canvas of what we can do with our player HUD. Well, what do we have that we can actually display? Well, if we come down to user created, we already have a few things in here, like player info. So we can actually drag this directly into our scene here, and we want to anchor this to the top right, and we want to go ahead and change the Y size to 100. And may need a little correction to this. I've had some issues with this before, but we want the positioning to be nice. So we know that it's 528. Let's go ahead and change the size to, we'll just say 550 by the 100. And now since we're anchored to the top right, we want, if we do negative 550, it's going to put it right on the edge, and we don't really want that. So I'm going to add 20 to that. So it'll be negative 570. That gives us a buffer of 20 there. And we know that we're at 100. So let's start off with a Y position of 20. So that's going to give us a little bit of a buffer space in between there. We're going to hit compile and save. And now when we go into play, it's not there because we haven't told it to actually display yet. So what we need to do is go to our character, our player, blueprints folder. We're going to go to player underscore base. We're not going to do anything with red man and blue man because we don't need to. Anything that we do to our player base is going to carry over to those two guys without us doing anything else. So inside here, you can see we had a reference here to our escape menu. So we're going to do basically the same thing here. And we don't need the input changes, so it'll be a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right over here, and we need to run this off of event begin play. So I'm going to scroll in, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to select event begin play. So now from this node, we want to, pretty much we're copying this right here. We're going to, and if you wanted to, you could just cheat a little bit, highlight these two and copy and paste. You can see we're using the player controller. And you need these three items here, but we're going to go ahead and come off of this pen. We're going to create a widget. Just going to go ahead and line that up a little bit and drag it over. The owning player, we're going to go with player controller. We're going to get player controller. Drag this over because we got to be beautiful, right? And the widget we're going to use is the Player Hud. And now from this blue pen right here, the return value, we're going to drag off and add to viewport. That's it. And that's the only thing we have running off of event begin play for right now. With all of it highlighted, I'm going to hit the C key, and we're going to go ahead and Player Hud from begin play. Awesome and simple. We're going to hit compile, save, and we can actually close that. We're going to leave that open for now. We don't need an escape menu open right now, so we're going to go ahead and close that one. Now when we go into play, now see what's happened is the connect to Steam, yeah, you're not going to see that because we're not in the standalone mode. So what I want to do first off is, you see it made a change to the red man and the blue man automatically. So we're going to go ahead and hit save all, take care of those. We're going to come back to our, not our player HUD, but we need to go back down into our widgets folder, and we need to go ahead and open up our player info _W. Now, what's happening is it's for some reason shoving it over here. It wasn't doing it in the main menu. And it doesn't matter what it says in here. I mean, what we're going to end up having to do is we need to make it to where, and we'll try this first, justification to the center, and let's see if that actually does anything. Hit compile and play, and we're going to go back in there and see it's still cutting it off. So we can also come back over here, and our justification we can select to the right, compile and save. And if this doesn't take care of it, we'll try it a different way. There we go. So, but what's going to happen now is when you actually go in and you are in standalone game, it's going to load up, and it's going to bypass the main menu because we're not in the main menu map for right now. So it's going to load up and go directly into that. And let's see how it looks when we actually have our Steam name and our Steam avatar in place. So we're probably going to have to make one or two more changes to make it to where it looks a little bit nicer and it stays correct between here, because we're using a widget. See, it looks fine there, but it's still not showing up. It's not showing my Steam information. And see, when we go back to the main menu, it's shoved it way over here. So we're going to have to do something a little bit different to get that to work. So with our player info, we're going to put this back to align text to the right. And with this, we know that it's going to be problematic. You notice where the anchoring is? We don't want it to anchor to there. We want to have it to where it anchors to the right. So you'll have to play around with it a little bit to get it to where it's just right. And I'm going to go back into selected viewport. So there it looks a little bit better. Now, the reason why it's not showing up is something we're going to have to take a look at. Now, we can go ahead and close that one out. It should be working. There's nothing actually in here. It was actually getting its information from our main menu. Because we don't have that extra functionality in here, we need to Steam data for upper right hand corner of the screen. So we're going to keep it simple. We're going to go ahead and highlight all this right here. We're going to Control C, go into the Player HUD, go into the graph. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all these guys right here because we don't need them. And then we're going to paste that in here because we have the event construct. So now we have this information in here. We're going to try hitting compile and save. Go back in here, and we're actually going to go back into a standalone version. So let's see if it actually pulls it in now. So with that code actually in our Player HUD, it should find that information and display it for us. Let's see what happens. There we go. Now it's showing our Steam name and our Steam avatar inside while we're playing. So that's pretty cool. So go back to the main menu. It still looks good in the main menu. And we're good to go. Now, we're going to need some other stuff. Again, pardon me while I do this. So we want to have some information to display there. So I'm actually going to go back into selected viewport again. So we'll see our Steam avatar and our Steam name in the upper right hand corner of the screen. Totally not necessary, you know who you are, but anyway, we want some other basic information about the character and about the player itself, your status. So let's actually take a look at the player and the player base. We're going to go into that. We don't need the main menu anymore. Now, inside the player, let's go ahead and set up a few basic attributes. And the one thing that I want to do is I want to start creating a few variables. And the first variable that I'm going to create, and this will tie in later when we start actually creating a save game environment. So I'm going to click on this variable, and I'm going to go ahead and call this health. Okay. Now, we want this to actually become a float, and replication, we're going to go ahead and select replicated. And instance editable and exposed on spawn, even if it's not totally necessary, we're going to go ahead and do that anyway. Now, we're not going to be able to set the base value to it just yet, but I'm going to go ahead and add a couple other variables in here. I'm going to create a new one, and we're going to call this hunger, and it's going to stay as a float. We don't need to worry about replication on it just yet, but we're going to do instance editable, expose on spawn. Create another one called thirst. And again, just that and that. Now, one of the things I want to go ahead and stress is also trying to be clean and neat and organized. Let's click on health, and where it says category, we want to select this, and we want to go ahead and highlight that. And we're going to call this player stats. Now it's going to create a new folder, so to speak, for that. So we're going to go ahead and click hunger, drop down box, and player stats. So now, as we're creating dozens upon dozens upon dozens of variables, they can be hidden, so you don't have to see them all the time. And we're going to go ahead and create two more variables, and create this variable is going to be called cash on hand. Now this will work into something a little bit later on as we're developing this into an actual core for a game that you can use as a template to save for yourself, anytime you want to create a new game, you'll have a basic core structure to where all you have to do is save a backup of this and use this as your core for your game. So again, not replicated because it's not necessary. And I'm clicking on the player stats folder here. I'm going to create another variable which is called bank balance. We want to make sure that it goes to the player stats, editable and exposed, and doesn't need to be replicated. So now you have all these variables. They're blank. You can't do anything with them just yet. So we need to hit compile and then save. And now we can click on our health, and we're going to set health to 100, hunger 100, thirst to 100, and if we want our character to start off with any cash in their hands or cash in the bank account, we can start off with $10 in our pocket, and we'll start off with another $20 in our bank account. Again, these aren't going to the save game just yet, but we want to go ahead and get them available so that we can have them viewable. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and compile and save. Now, we're not really worried about these values just yet. We just wanted the variables in here. So now when we go to our Player HUD, we look at our designer graph. Let's go ahead and create a simple character status right here. So I'm going to grab an image, drag it over here, and we're going to go ahead and anchor it to the bottom right. Let's resize it a little bit, and we're going to change the size a couple times. But let's start off with 320 by 200. A little bit big, so let's go with 150. And since we're anchored to the bottom right, if we were to just zero this out, it would be off the screen. So if we do negative 350 and negative 170, that'll, or yeah, we want to do a little bit more than that. We want to have a little bit more of a buffer. Negative 190. Let's actually go with 180. So now that's going to be anchored to the screen in the bottom right hand corner. And let's go ahead, and we don't want it to be white. Go to color and opacity. We still have our red and our blue saved right over here, but let's go ahead and create a black color, and we want to change the opacity to 0.5. And then we're going to go ahead and drag this up here. So now we can come back to it anytime we want. So we have a little bit of a see-through black background on our heads-up display. So we need a progress bar. So let's grab a progress bar. Let's drag it in here. And for your health, let's leave this kind of big so we can see what it looks like. And then we're going to slide the bar all the way across and try to fill it up the best that we can. We can actually fidget with the numbers. 300 sounds like a good thing because we now have a buffer of the walls on the outside. But I'll leave it to you to actually position it however you want to. If you can't get it to snap in the right position, uncheck this box, and then you can slide it a little bit at a time and get it where you want visibly. But selecting it by the numbers will actually give you better precision. Now, we want our health to actually not be blue. So if you grab right here, you left click and slide it across, you can actually see what your health bar is going to look like. And we don't want the blue. And we're going to leave it a little bit partial right now. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to select our red again and click OK, and we're good to go. So that is our health bar. Well, how do we get it to actually read our health? Well, we're going to have to create a binding for the percentage right here. So we click on bind, create binding, and then we're just going to drag this off, give us some room to work with, and you can get over here. And we need to cast to player underscore base, and from there we need to get the player character, and we'll go ahead and park you right over here so we can stay pretty. And now we need to, as player base, we need to get health. And since we're doing the health bar, let's go ahead and click on our function that we're doing here twice, or you can hit F2, and we want to get player health. So we know what it is. We want to come back and make changes to it. Now, we could just straight up show that, but we need it to show in a percentage. So we can drag off from the return value, and we want to do a float divided by float. And then from that, we want to divide it by 100. And then drag this back over to our return value. And let's neaten it up just a little bit so we look awesome. So that's all we're doing, is we're grabbing our health from the player base, and we are dividing it by 100 and throwing it into the return node so that we get a 1 to 100 percentage ratio. Hit compile, and we hit save. Let's go back to load map, our lobby map, and we're going to go ahead and play in standalone. And what did we forget to do? We actually forgot to, in our designer, we didn't anchor. And how you guys let me do that? We didn't anchor this to the bottom right. So now that we've anchored it to the bottom right, we can hit compile, save, go back into the map, and there we go. Now we have a health bar. So if we start taking damage, it'll actually start going down, and it'll represent our actual health. Since we're not taking damage yet, we don't have anything to report. So let's go ahead and add in some of the other values, and go ahead and save all again, because we've made changes to the player base. It automatically made changes to the blue man and red man. So in our player HUD, we need to also show our hunger, our thirst, and the amount of cash we have on hand. So we're going to grab another progress bar, and we're going to position it roughly about the same, and then drag it out. But we want to make it a little bit smaller, so we're actually going to change the size. It's 300 by 20, so it's half the size. We don't want to take up as much room as the health bar did. So with that, we're going to drag our percentage bar over, and it's blue. So let's go ahead and make this our thirst bar. We can go ahead and leave it as blue. So we need to go ahead and create a binding. And we're going to do basically the same thing that we did before for getting our health. So we need to cast to player, yes, spelling, cast to player base, and we need to get the player character. Copy and paste is your best friend. So as this, we need to get our thirst, get thirst. All right. And again, because I like to be organized, we want to get player thirst. Now we're going to do the same thing, drag off from this, and we're going to say float divided by float, change this value to 100, and then go ahead and connect that up to the return value, bring that on over here, and compile and save. Now we're going to go back to we're going to actually close these two down, but since we want to save a little bit of time, let's go ahead and Control C on those two, so we can just paste it into the other one, make it a little bit easier. So we go back into our designer, and we're going to remember this time to anchor it to the bottom right. And now we want to go ahead and create a new progress bar. And yes, we could have copy and pasted here, but we've already stolen our reference of copy and paste for the other part. So 300 by 20, and we'll go ahead and position that. And again, you can take your time to position this as nice as you want. I'm going to be a little bit quicker with this, just so we can get through with actually making it. Now, while we're still thinking about it, let's go ahead and anchor it to the bottom right, and let's scroll our percentage up. We don't want it to be the same color as the thirst, so we're doing this as our hunger bar. And let's go ahead and click on this. We know this is our hunger bar. We want to go ahead and change the name to hunger bar. And we know this is our thirst bar, so we're going to go ahead and name that. And we know this is going to be our hunger bar. Oh, sorry, I'm being dumb. Health bar. And then we'll go ahead and correctly call this the hunger bar. Now, go back into our color and opacity, and let's just create, I don't know, let's make it a lovely shade of green, or whatever color you want to make it. I mean, we can make it pink if we want to, or some sort of brown. Yeah, I think green is a little bit easier on the eyes here. But we'll make it a little bit darker. That looks lovely. Okay, I'm not really worried about saving this color, but I'll do it anyway. Grab the color, drag it and drop it up there, select OK, and we'll go ahead and create our binding for this one. Create binding, drag this over here, Control V, drag that to here, drag that to here, position that, and we are in get hunger bar percent. No, we are getting get hunger, get player hunger. We're going to get our hunger. We are going to float divided by float. Change the value to 100. Connect these two, and that's it. Compile, save, and we'll close that. We'll look back at our designer again. They're all anchored to the bottom right-hand corner. And lastly, let's go ahead and add in our credits, our cash that we have in our pockets. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the first one, which is text. And I'm going to grab a second text box. Now, the first one, I am just going to, we'll come to font. We're going to end up changing the size of it later. But we're going to change what it actually says to a $sign. Go to our color and opacity, and let's give it a nice gold color. Close enough for government work. And we don't need it to be that big. We don't need the box that big. But let's go ahead and we can position this wherever we want to. I'm going to go ahead and position it right here. I'm going to go ahead and change the font to, 20 looks good for now. We want it small, but we don't want it really, really small. So now we want to go ahead to our other text block, and we're going to change the font 20, and we're going to change it to regular. Shrink our box down a little bit. We're going to change our color to that yellow color, our gold color. And we want to make sure that our justification is to the left. We're going to change where it says text block for right now, and we're going to be rich. We're going to have lots of monies. All right, now we want to go ahead and drag this into here so that it's off of that. I'm actually going to lower it down so we can make our Player Hud box a little bit smaller. Now we can come in here and do this. Again, we want to make sure that we go ahead and anchor these to the bottom right-hand corner so that they will stay where we want them to. And now for the actual dollar amount of how many credits you actually have, again, we're going to create a binding. And same basic principle. We need our Cast2 player base. However, since it is a actual return value is text, we're going to go ahead and get our cash on hand, and then we're going to drag off from this float to our text. It'll automatically create a node for us to convert text to, or the float to text. And now it will return the exact value of what we have as our cash on hand. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to go ahead and rename it, actually. get cash on hand, compile, save, and we don't need that anymore, and we can look back at our designer, and I think that's going to be good enough for now. So I'm actually going to close that, and I'm going to close that, and we're going to go take a look at it. So now we actually have, as you see, the number changed from millions to our measly little $10 that we've got as our cash on hand. So there, we've just created a very, very simple, very basic heads-up display for your character so you can see your Steam name and avatar. And while we're doing that, let's actually go into our lobby map, and then, our main menu map, and then we're going to run this in standalone so that when a game comes up, we'll see what we've actually created so far. Again, if you're enjoying these and you would like to get this simple multiplayer or Steam multiplayer template, again, it is available to purchase for $10, and as to help support me so that I can continue to stay at home and create content like this for you guys to watch and to build your own games with. So I'm actually going to host a game and hit make. There we go. We've got our Steam avatar in the upper right hand corner, our Steam name, and we have our heads up display that accurately reads how much money we currently have, our current hunger, our current thirst, and our current health status. So that's good. I mean, you could add other things in, like a mini map display. There's lots of other things you can do to create a good heads up display, but for now, that's going to be useful for us. And when we start creating our core elements for our core game, we'll already have this in place so that when we find pickups that we can get money, then it'll automatically show our cash on hand. We'll create an ATM system where you can walk over to an ATM and be able to deposit money or withdraw money from your account so that if you get killed, you don't lose your money. So, and we'll do a death animation so that when you do die, what you have on you falls to the ground next to you. So we're building these core elements to create a game from scratch using my simple Steam multiplayer template. So you'll have something that if you decide later on you want to go ahead and put it on Steam, you can purchase your own developer app ID and actually make your own game from this. And your core will allow you to easily expand, and I'll show you how to become modular as you create this. Alrighty, so we'll go back to our character select. Another thing we can do when we actually integrate our save game is if you decide you only want to be the red man, you never want to be the white man, or you never want to be the blue man, you can save that so that when you exit the game, it'll automatically save that to your save game character, and next time you go to play, it will remember your choice. So there's so many options that we can do. Alright. Well, I do thank you for watching, and again, if you're interested in purchasing this, contact me via Discord, and we'll take payments via PayPal for just the template. And if you want to sign up on my Discord, then Discord and my Patreon members on Discord get a separate channel where you have direct access that I will be checking the messages every day, multiple times a day. I will see your comments, and I will respond to your comments as quickly as I can and give you immediate feedback on how you can update the project, or if you've got any problems with something, you can ask me directly in either voice or in text chat, and we can resolve your issues. And if I don't know the answer, I can get you to the answers. And other levels of the Patreon will allow you to get updates. So if you want the latest update that I have right now, and you're of that status in Patreon, then you can just say in the Discord channel, "Hey Beef, I haven't caught up on your videos. Can I have the latest version?" Okay, no problem. Here's the link. There you go. So that would be nice to have, so you can have the same thing that we're into on these videos. Again, get with me on Discord, and we'll talk about it. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.